They said the twins were blind. That was the story everyone believed. But what if the truth was far more dangerous than anyone could imagine? A long silence hovered in the mansion that day. Only the sound of the ticking clock echoed through the empty hallways. The twins, who had spent their lives in the shadows, were thought to be completely blind, dependent on others, incapable of seeing the world as it was. But what if the very thing they needed to see had been kept from them, hidden for years by the very people they trusted? For years, no one dared ask questions about the children of the wealthy and mysterious Thomas family. But then, Clara, the new maid, young, sharp-eyed, and full of secrets, walked into that mansion and discovered something that turned their world upside down. What she uncovered would change everything. The life they had known, the lies they had been fed, the power they thought they had, none of it would ever be the same again. Could one woman's courage break the silence? Could one secret expose everything they had worked so hard to hide? You have to watch to the end. Because the truth, it will leave you breathless. Watch now and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Where are you watching from? Let us know. We love hearing from you. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next powerful story. The mansion had always been an enigma. Hidden behind tall iron gates, shaded by towering trees, it stood like an isolated fortress, its cold stone walls steeped in untold history. The Thomas family, known for their wealth, mystery, and influence, had lived there for decades. People whispered about them in the small town nearby, but no one ever truly knew them. The twins, Liam and Lila, were part of that mystery. They were born into the world of privilege, but no one outside the family knew much about them. They had been told that the children were blind. Blindness was the reason they lived in the mansion, shielded from the outside world. The reasons behind their isolation had always been a topic of hushed conversation among the staff. No one questioned it. No one dared to. Until Clara arrived. Clara was a young woman, hired as a maid for the Thomas estate. Unlike the others who had worked there for years, she was unafraid to ask questions. She was curious, too curious for her own good perhaps, but she knew something wasn't right. The twins' blindness didn't make sense. How could someone so young and full of potential live their entire life without ever seeing the world? Something was off, and Clara couldn't shake the feeling that she was meant to uncover it. Her first few days in the mansion were spent cleaning, dusting, and settling into the rhythm of the house. But there was something about the way the twins acted around her. Liam's quick, measured movements, Lila's sudden bursts of laughter as if she could sense someone watching. Something didn't add up. They didn't feel like blind children. They felt like people trapped in a world that wasn't their own, playing a part in a show that they didn't fully understand. Clara's suspicions grew with each passing day. She noticed the twins' uncanny ability to navigate the house with precision, without the aid of a cane or anyone's help. They moved like people who could see, not like blind children stumbling through a world of darkness. One evening, after everyone had retired to their rooms, Clara stayed behind to finish her chores. As she passed by the twins' room, she overheard them talking softly to each other. It was the kind of conversation that wasn't meant to be heard, the kind that would only occur in the secrecy of night. "She's getting too close." Lila's voice was low, filled with fear. "I know," Liam replied, his tone just as quiet. "But what are we supposed to do? She's asking questions." "Maybe it's time," Lila said, her voice trembling. Clara's heart raced. She didn't know what was happening, but she knew she had to find out. She couldn't let this go. The next morning, she approached the twins while they sat in the garden, as they always did. The sun was bright, and the scent of fresh flowers filled the air. She had been with the family long enough to notice the pattern. The twins would spend their days in the garden, surrounded by the beauty of nature, but never truly seeing it. They never once took in the full beauty of the flowers, the trees, or the sky. They simply sat there, as if waiting for something. Clara had to confront them. She had to know the truth. "Liam, Lila," she started, trying to keep her voice steady. "I've been working here for some time now, and I can't help but wonder something." The twins turned their heads towards her, and Clara could feel their gaze like they were looking right at her, even though they couldn't see her. "Are you really blind?" Clara's words came out almost before she could stop them. Liam was the first to respond, his lips curling into a smile. "Do you think we're lying?" Clara hesitated, her heart pounding. "I don't know. Something doesn't feel right." Lila's eyes flickered for a moment, a brief flash of recognition, before her face turned cold. "And what do you plan to do with that information?" Clara took a deep breath, the weight of the moment settling on her. "I want to help you. I think you deserve the truth." Liam stood up abruptly, his voice suddenly hard. "The truth," he repeated.
The truth is something you may not be ready to hear. Clara didn't back down. I'll decide what I'm ready for. There was a long silence between them, and for the first time since meeting the twins, Clara felt like she was standing on the edge of something much bigger than herself. She didn't know what secrets the Thomas family was hiding, but she was determined to uncover them. And no matter how dangerous it might be, Clara was ready to take that step. That night, as she worked late in the house, Clara discovered something, a hidden drawer in the twins' room that had been left slightly ajar. She didn't know what she was looking for, but her instincts told her to open it. Inside, she found old photographs, documents, and a journal. Flipping through the journal, she came across an entry that froze her. It read, "The twins can never know. They must stay in the dark. They must stay blind for their own safety. If they ever see what's hidden in this house, the truth will destroy us all." Clara's hand shook as she closed the journal. What had she just uncovered, and why had it been hidden so carefully from the twins? The mystery was beginning to unravel, but she didn't know where it would lead. As she pondered what to do next, Clara knew one thing for certain: the truth was out there, and it was far more dangerous than anyone could imagine.
The air in the mansion felt thick, as though every room was holding its breath. Clara had always believed in the power of truth, in the way it could set people free. But as she held the journal in her hands, she realized that this truth was a double-edged sword. Revealing it would shatter lives, perhaps even end them. The next day she continued with her duties, trying to keep the tremor of uncertainty from her voice as she went about her chores. But the twins were different now. They watched her more closely, as if they knew she was hiding something, as if they were waiting for her to make a move. Their silence was unbearable, stretching between them like a weight no one could lift. Clara's suspicions grew stronger with each passing moment. The more she thought about it, the more the pieces of the puzzle began to fit together. The twins' blindness was a lie. But why? Why had the Thomas family gone to such lengths to keep them in the dark? What could possibly be so dangerous that it had to be hidden from them? That afternoon she found herself standing in front of their door again, her mind racing. She had made up her mind. She had to confront them. She had to know the truth. The twins were no longer just children in need of help. They were two people trapped in a life that wasn't their own. And Clara knew she couldn't walk away from that. Lila was sitting by the window when Clara entered, her fingers tapping nervously on the wooden armrest of the chair. She didn't look up, but Clara knew she was aware of her presence. "Clara," she said softly, almost in a whisper, "you've been poking around, haven't you?" Clara felt her heart skip a beat. She hadn't expected Lila to be so direct, but the tension in the air made her words feel like a challenge. "I've been trying to understand what's happening here," Clara said, her voice steady. "Why are you both locked away in this house? Why the blindness?" Lila finally looked up, her expression unreadable. "You don't know what you're asking, Clara. There are things in this house that you can't unsee, things that are better left hidden." Clara stepped closer. "I need to know the truth, Lila. I need to know why you and Liam have been kept like this." Lila's face softened, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes, something like fear. "You don't understand. We've lived our whole lives in the dark, yes, but it's not because we're blind. It's because of what's in this house, what's been hidden here for generations." Clara's stomach twisted. "What is it?" Lila's gaze fell to the floor, her voice barely above a whisper. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." Just then, Liam walked into the room. His presence was enough to silence the conversation. He had a way of commanding attention without speaking a word. He was the kind of person who could make a room feel colder just by being there. "I think it's time you knew, Clara," he said, his voice calm but firm. "But I don't want you to come to this house thinking you can change things. Some truths are too dangerous. Some secrets are better left buried." Clara stared at him, her eyes searching his face for any sign of weakness. But there was none. He was hiding something, hiding everything, and she couldn't let it go. "I don't care how dangerous it is," Clara said, her voice trembling with determination. "I need to know. You owe me that much." Liam's lips tightened, and for a moment Clara thought he might refuse to tell her. But then, as if the weight of her words finally sank in, he nodded. "Fine. But remember, you asked for this." Liam stood up and walked to the window, her back turned to the others. Clara's gaze followed her movements, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. It was as if the very walls of the house were holding their breath. "The truth is this," Liam began. "The blindness is not the only thing that's been kept from you. There's something much darker buried beneath this mansion, something our family has tried to forget, but it's impossible. It's always been here." Clara felt a chill run down her spine.
The air in the room seemed to shift, growing colder, more suffocating. Years ago, Liam continued, our ancestors made a pact to keep something sealed away, something so dangerous that it could destroy everything. Our family's power, our wealth, everything came at a price, and that price was the blindness. The blindness was a protection, a way to shield us from the truth. Clara's mind raced. What do you mean? What's in this house? Liam's eyes darkened, and he stepped closer. There's something hidden in the basement, a room that's been locked for generations, and the blindness, ours and our ancestors, was a way to keep us from finding it, a way to keep us from opening it. Clara's blood ran cold. What's in the room? Liam's expression turned grim. The answer to everything, the truth that could destroy us all, and we can never let it be known. Clara felt the weight of his words settle in her chest. She had come here seeking answers, but now she was more confused than ever. She had thought the truth would set her free, but instead it felt like it was pulling her deeper into a web of lies and deceit. Liam turned away from the window, her face pale. You should leave, Clara. The truth is something you might not be able to live with. But Clara didn't leave. She couldn't. Not now. Not when she was this close to unraveling everything. She wasn't going to turn back, no matter how dangerous it became. That night, Clara decided to confront the basement. She had to know what was hidden there, what the Thomas family was so desperate to protect. She had already discovered so much. There was no turning back now.
Clara stood at the base of the stairs leading to the basement, her heart racing. The air was thick with tension, as if the house itself were warning her to turn back. But there was no turning back now. She had come too far, uncovered too many secrets. The journal she had found, the cryptic words of the twins, the strange feeling that there was more to this mansion than its cold stone walls, it all pointed here. She took a deep breath and descended into the darkness. The basement was colder than the rest of the house, and the faint smell of dust and mildew lingered in the air. The only light came from the small flashlight Clara held, its beam barely cutting through the oppressive gloom. The walls seemed to close in around her as she moved deeper into the room, the silence pressing down like a weight. At the far end of the basement, Clara spotted an old wooden door. The edges were worn, the paint chipped and peeling. It looked ancient, almost as if it had been there for centuries. Clara's pulse quickened. This was it, the door that had been sealed for generations, the room that the Thomas family had kept hidden, locked away from the world. She approached cautiously, her breath shallow. The door was locked, of course. Everything in this house was locked, sealed away behind layers of secrecy. But Clara wasn't afraid. She had come this far. Her hand trembled as she reached for the old key she had found hidden in the twins' room earlier that day. It was small and intricate, like something out of a forgotten time, but it fit perfectly into the lock. With a soft click, the door creaked open. Clara stepped inside. The room was unlike anything she had ever seen. It was small, dimly lit by a single dusty window that barely let in any light. The walls were lined with shelves, filled with old books, dusty relics, and strange artifacts. But it wasn't the objects that caught her attention. It was the center of the room. A large, ornate mirror stood there, its frame covered in intricate carvings. The mirror was different from any Clara had ever seen. It wasn't just a reflection of her face. It seemed to pull at something deep inside of her, as though it were drawing her in. The air around the mirror felt charged, electric, as if the very fabric of reality was shifting. Clara's gaze lingered on the mirror. She didn't know why, but she felt compelled to step closer. As she approached, she could see herself more clearly in the reflection, but there was something else, something more. Her reflection wasn't quite right. The edges of her image seemed to blur, like the mirror was showing her a distorted version of herself. Clara, a voice whispered, so faint she wasn't sure if it was real. She froze, her heart thumping in her chest. Who's there? The voice came again, clearer this time, though still faint. You shouldn't have come here. You've seen too much already. Clara spun around, but the room was empty. She was alone. But the voice didn't stop. The mirror, it shows the truth you don't want to see. Clara turned back to the mirror, her hand shaking. She felt a strange compulsion to touch the glass. As her fingers brushed the surface, the world around her seemed to shift. The mirror pulsed with an unnatural energy, and for a moment Clara thought she might be pulled into it. Instead, the glass rippled, like water disturbed by a stone. Clara stumbled backward, her breath catching in her throat, and then everything changed. The room blurred, and Clara found herself in a different place, a different time. The reflection in the mirror wasn't just hers anymore. It was a vision of another family, another time. She saw a woman, young and beautiful, standing in front of the same mirror. The woman's face was filled with fear, and her eyes were wide with terror as she looked into the glass. But the reflection, what she saw in the mirror, wasn't her own face. It was Clara's face. "Why?" the woman whispered, her voice shaking. "Why is this happening to me?" Clara's heart skipped a beat. The woman in the mirror looked just like her, but this wasn't just a vision of the past. This was something deeper, something that went beyond time. The woman in the mirror was reaching out, her hand pressed against the glass, as if trying to make contact with Clara. "Help me," the woman whispered again, her voice full of desperation. Suddenly, Clara understood. This wasn't just a mirror. This was something far darker, something that had been hidden for generations. The Thomas family wasn't just wealthy and powerful. They were cursed. The pact they had made, the blindness they had inflicted upon the twins, the lies they had told, it was all part of something much bigger. The family had made a deal with something ancient, something powerful, and the price was a piece of their very souls. The curse had been passed down through the generations, and now it was Clara's turn to face it. The woman in the mirror wasn't just a part of the past. She was Clara's ancestor, trapped in the same cycle, bound by the same curse, and Clara was the one who could break it, or destroy herself trying. The voice came again, this time louder, as if it were coming from within her own mind. "Now that you've seen it, you can never forget. The truth is yours to carry now." Clara stumbled back, gasping for air. The room around her felt like it was closing in, the weight of everything she had uncovered pressing down on her chest. The mirror no longer showed the woman, it showed her own face, twisted and distorted, as if it were trying to pull her in. Suddenly she heard footsteps behind her. Turning quickly, Clara saw Liam standing in the doorway. His face was pale, his eyes wide with something between fear and anger. "You shouldn't have come here," he said, his voice cold and distant. Clara couldn't speak. She was frozen, her mind reeling from what she had just seen. What was the curse? How could she stop it? And why had the family gone to such lengths to keep it hidden? Liam took a step forward, his expression hardening. "You should have listened. You should have stayed in the dark." Clara's heart pounded as she looked into his eyes. "I can't ignore this anymore. The truth is too powerful to keep buried." Liam's gaze softened for just a moment, and in that brief instant, Clara saw the burden he had carried his whole life, the weight of the curse, the pain of knowing the truth but being forced to keep it hidden. But then, the hardness returned to his eyes, and he took another step closer. "You've seen too much," he said quietly. "Now you're part of it, and there's no going back." The room felt suffocating as Liam's words echoed in Clara's ears. "You're part of it now, and there's no going back." Her heart pounded, the weight of his statement sinking in. For a moment she felt paralyzed, as if the entire mansion had closed in on her, trapping her inside with its dark history. The mirror, still pulsing with that eerie, unnatural energy, seemed to mock her, as if it knew something she didn't. Clara took a step back, but Liam didn't move. His eyes were locked on her, filled with a mix of sorrow and warning. "What is this?" she demanded, her voice shaking with a mix of fear and anger. "What's the curse? Why is your family doing this?" Liam's face softened, his lips twitching as if he wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. He finally sighed, taking a step closer to her. "It started with my great-grandfather," he began, his voice quiet but heavy with the weight of years of secrecy. "He was a powerful man, one of the wealthiest in the country, but his wealth wasn't just from hard work or good fortune. It was from a deal he made with something ancient, a force that promised him power, influence, and wealth beyond his wildest dreams. But there was a price." Clara's stomach twisted. "What price?" Liam's gaze hardened as he spoke. "The family would be bound to a curse that would prevent us from ever truly seeing the world as it is. We would be blind, not just physically, but in every sense. The deal was made under the guise of protection, to shield us from the power of the thing we had bargained with. But in truth, it was a prison built from lies, fear, and silence." Clara's mind was spinning. She had suspected there was something wrong with the Thomas family, but she had never imagined this. They were caught in a web of their own making, trapped by a curse that spanned generations. "But why the blindness?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Why not just let you see?" Liam's eyes darkened. "Because the truth would destroy us. The curse is meant to keep us in the dark. If we were to see, If we were to uncover the true nature of what our family had bargained for, it would destroy everything. The house, the wealth, the legacy. All of it would crumble. Clara felt a chill run down her spine. And the twins? They're not blind? Liam nodded slowly. No, the blindness was a way to keep us under control, to make sure we stayed in the dark. But the twins, they were never truly blind. They knew. They've always known. And they've been waiting for someone to uncover the truth. Clara's head spun. This entire family has been living a lie. Liam's gaze shifted to the mirror, his eyes full of sorrow. Yes, but it's more than that. It's not just a lie. It's a curse that's been passed down through the generations. My ancestors made a deal with something powerful, something that has no intention of letting us go. And now it's too late. The truth is out, and there's no way to undo what's been done. Clara's mind raced. So what happens now? What do I do with this? What do we do with the truth? Liam's face was grim. I don't know, but you can't stay here. You've seen too much. You're part of this now, whether you want to be or not, and there's no escaping it. Clara shook her head, her breath coming in shallow gasps. I can't just walk away from this. I can't pretend I didn't see the truth. Liam's expression softened, but there was a sadness in his eyes that sent a shiver down her spine. I know. That's why I'm telling you this. You can't escape what you know, but you also can't stay here. The curse is alive. It's watching, waiting, and now it will follow you. Clara stood frozen, her mind racing with the implications of what Liam had said. The mirror, her reflection, was no longer just a simple object. It was a window into something much darker, a force that had been controlling them all, manipulating them for generations. And now that force was reaching out to her, pulling her into the same tangled web that had trapped the Thomas family. I won't leave, Clara said, her voice trembling but resolute. I have to fix this. I have to break the curse. Liam's face hardened again, but this time there was a trace of admiration in his eyes. You're brave, but be careful. The truth is a dangerous thing, and once it's out, it can't be put back. If you decide to go after it, you're putting yourself in danger. Clara didn't hesitate. I don't care. I'm not going to let this family suffer in silence anymore. I'm not going to let the curse control us. Liam nodded slowly, as if resigned to the fact that Clara was determined to go forward no matter the cost. Then I'll help you. But you need to understand, Clara. This isn't just about breaking a curse. It's about surviving it. You can't fight something this powerful head-on. You'll need to be clever. You'll need to use everything you have to outsmart it. Clara didn't respond immediately. She couldn't. The weight of Liam's words hung heavily in the air, and she could feel the gravity of the situation pressing down on her chest. But one thing was certain. She wasn't going to run from this. She wasn't going to let the curse define her, or the Thomas family. She was going to break it. The mirror still stood before her, its surface now smooth and still, but Clara knew it was only a matter of time before she would have to face it again, face whatever had been hiding in its depths. And when she did, she would be ready. But first, she needed to find the key to breaking the curse. The answer was out there, hidden somewhere in the mansion, buried beneath the lies, and she wasn't going to stop until she found it. Clara's resolve was unshakable as she stood in the dim light of the basement, facing the mirror that had now become the center of her obsession. The echoes of Liam's words still rang in her ears. The truth is a dangerous thing, but she didn't care. She had already crossed the threshold, and there was no turning back. The curse that had haunted the Thomas family for generations, the web of lies and secrets that had kept them bound, was something she refused to let continue. She had seen the reflection of the woman, her ancestor trapped in the glass, and she couldn't ignore the call to break the cycle. But how? What was the answer? The mansion felt colder, more oppressive with each passing day. Every step Clara took seemed to bring her closer to an inevitable reckoning. She had spoken with Liam, uncovered his family's dark past, but the path forward was unclear. Where did the curse begin, and how could it be stopped? That night she returned to the basement, determined to find the key to unlocking the truth. The mirror was silent now, its surface smooth and still, reflecting only the faint light of her flashlight. It was a momentary respite from the heavy weight of the mystery, but Clara knew that peace would not last. She paced in front of it, her mind racing. She had to find a way to break the curse, to release her family, to release herself. But where could she begin? The answer had to be hidden here, within the walls of this mansion. Everything seemed connected to this house, to the darkness that had seeped into every room. Then a thought struck her. What if the key to breaking the curse wasn't just about confronting the mirror, but uncovering the roots of the bargain her ancestors had made? What if the truth wasn't just about breaking a spell, but about confronting the source of their power? She began searching again. This time, her eyes scanned every corner of the basement with more focus. She looked at the shelves, the books, the strange relics that had been left behind by generations of the Thomas family. There, wedged behind an old, crumbling book, Clara found it, the key she had been looking for. It was a small, ornate box, its surface covered in strange symbols that seemed to pulse with an energy of their own. She could feel it, like the box was alive, waiting for her to unlock it. With trembling hands, she opened the box. Inside was a folded parchment, yellowed with age, the ink faded but still legible. Clara's eyes widened as she read the words, which confirmed what she had suspected all along. The Thomas family had made a deal not with some ancient force but with something far more insidious, a being that fed on fear, on secrets, on power, and the price for their wealth and influence had been generations of lives spent in darkness, bound to this entity's will. The bargain was simple. As long as the Thomas family remained blind to the truth, the entity would grant them power. But the moment they saw the truth, the moment they uncovered the curse, it would claim them, body and soul. Clara's heart raced as she read the final line of the parchment. To break the curse, one must look into the mirror, see the truth, and offer their own soul as the price. She froze. The truth, the mirror, the very thing that had kept the Thomas family enslaved, the blindness, the lies, the isolation, was now a trap. The entity had made sure that none of them could truly see. And the price for breaking the curse? A life, a soul. Clara's mind reeled. The cost was unimaginable. She had come here seeking freedom, for herself, for the twins, for the family. But to break the curse would require a sacrifice she wasn't sure she could make, but she knew what she had to do. As dawn broke over the mansion, Clara stood in front of the mirror once more. This time she wasn't just looking at her reflection. She was facing the truth that had been buried for generations, the truth that had been hidden from her family for so long. The mirror wasn't just a window to the past, it was a door to the future. The house seemed to hold its breath as Clara stepped forward, her hand trembling as she reached for the glass. The air around her crackled, the energy in the room thick with the weight of everything that had come before. The truth was no longer a distant concept. It was here, in front of her, and it was waiting to be faced. Clara, the voice whispered again, the same voice she had heard before. It was the voice of the woman trapped in the mirror, the voice of her ancestor. You must make the choice. You must choose whether you will break the cycle, or become part of it forever. Clara took a deep breath. There was no other choice. She couldn't live in the shadow of this curse forever. She had to set them all free. The family, the twins. She had to break the cycle. With a final, steadying breath, Clara stepped forward into the mirror. For a moment, everything went dark, and then Clara felt something shift. The room around her seemed to dissolve, and she was no longer in the basement. She was standing in a vast, empty space. No walls, no ceilings, just an endless horizon. Before her stood the entity, the being that had caused all this suffering. It was a presence, a shadow in the shape of something human, but not quite. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and its voice was like 1,000 whispers, speaking all at once. You have come to break the curse, it said, its voice cold and distant. But the price is steep. Are you willing to pay it? Clara didn't hesitate. Yes, the entity smiled, a twisted, hollow smile. Then your soul shall be the price. And just like that, Clara felt herself being pulled into the abyss, her body, her mind, her soul, all merging with the darkness. But in that moment, she knew she had done the right thing. The truth had been exposed, the curse had been broken, and the cycle had finally come to an end. Moral of the story: the truth can be a powerful force, one that can change everything, bring both freedom and destruction. But sometimes, to free others, we must be willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. Clara chose to break the cycle, knowing the cost, and in doing so, she set her family free from the curse that had bound them for generations. The truth, though painful, is always worth uncovering. But remember, every truth comes with its own price. What would you be willing to sacrifice to set others free? Would you face the truth, no matter the cost? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share it with your friends. We can't wait to bring you more powerful, emotional stories just like this one.